Hey guys, a couple of topics I get asked about quite a lot. One is it true that there's some businesses in Japan that have signs outside saying no foreigners? And the other one is about racism. People ask me, if I've seen racism in Japan, and then I often get asked by other races of people or other groups of people if they will get discrimination. So, black people ask me if they'll get discriminated more than white people, and Chinese people ask me if they'll get discriminated more than other people, and different races, different people from different places ask me if they'll get more discrimination than anyone else. To answer the first topic, I have never seen a sign that says no foreigners, but I totally 100% believe it, that they exist. I've got no problem believing that at all. The second question is about the racism. I'm not convinced I've experienced or seen racism here, but I've totally seen discrimination, and I've totally been affected by discrimination, and it's, from what I've observed, it's widespread. So, big topic. I'm sure discrimination exists in just about every country, so Japan's probably no different from other countries in that, but my job is to address the topics of Japan, and to be honest, I have to be honest with you guys about the good and bad. If you come to Japan and you spend a lot of time here, if you come here for a holiday for a week, you may not notice it, but if you come here long term, you will experience discrimination. Now, I'll give you some examples of it. First one comes to mind is I applied for, when I first came to Japan, I wanted to rent an apartment, and I went to a real estate company, and they showed me around, and they showed me some very old, crappy places that nobody had lived in for a few years, quite obviously, piles of dust everywhere, and quite obvious nobody had lived there, no power, no water, nobody had lived there for years, for a couple of $100s a month, sort of places that were just terrible, that nobody would want to live in. And then when my Japanese friend came with me and said he wanted to rent a place, suddenly we were shown really nice brand new apartments. So that's the first one that comes to mind. I've been refused insurance. I tried to get private health insurance from one company, and as soon as everything was okay until I told them, I was on the phone, and until I told them my name, and as soon as I told them my name, they said, "What country are you from?" And I told them, and they said, "Oh, we can't insure foreigners." And when I asked why, they said it was because we couldn't read foreigners couldn't read the legal documents that attached to the insurance well enough to understand them, so they couldn't insure foreigners. So I said to them that I could understand the forms that I'd seen, and that also I had a Japanese wife who could understand them, and they said, "No, sorry, we can't insure foreigners because you can't read the legal documents well enough." So that same company insures children who can't read the documents, and old people who are blind who can't read the documents, but they won't insure foreigners. So, and there's no point in complaining about this. There's no point, there's nobody, I've heard people say they want to complain to somebody about the discrimination and that sort of stuff. There's no point, because when it comes to companies can decide who they do business with, and there's nothing you can do about it. Basically, you just have to accept it. So discrimination from real estate companies is widespread. The reasons for this stuff is varied, I'd imagine. I imagine there's a certain percentage of it is just because dealing with foreigners is just too freaky for the companies. They don't know how to do it. The big names don't fit on the forms, and everything's too complicated, so they just say, no, it's too difficult. Let's not deal with foreigners. There's also an aspect too with real estate companies and so on, is that a lot of them have been bitten by foreigners who have gone home, trashed the apartment, not paid the bills, and then gone home, and that is pretty common. Foreigners who come here for a year or two, and then at the end, when it comes time to go home, just don't pay their bills, and they just get on the aeroplane and go home owing money and leaving the apartment a mess and so on. So because of that, a lot of companies won't deal with us because they're frightened we'll do that. So, you know, there's a variety of reasons for it, I guess. Not trying to excuse it, just, you know, you can see the reasons for it. But yeah, then you know, banks trying to get a credit card or a home loan in Japan is really difficult. You know, most banks just won't touch us. Some banks will, if you've got permanent residency, if you've lived here for 6 to 10 years and you've got, you know, you don't have a visa, you have permanent residency, you've applied for permanent residency from the immigration department and been given it. Sometimes the banks will deal with you, but most banks aren't interested in dealing with foreigners under any circumstances. And if you haven't got permanent residency, you're pretty well invisible. You know, and that doesn't matter how long you've been here, or you know, if you're married to a Japanese person or anything, you're just invisible. As soon as they know you're foreign, they say sorry, can't help you. And then, you know, other times as well, I mean, it happens, you know, you go to a restaurant or some business place and, you know, you want to do business with them and they don't even look at you, or they look at someone else first, or, you know, it happens, guys, it happens. And, you know, if you live here long term, you will experience it. So I'd be lying if I said it didn't happen. It does. And I mean, it probably happens in every country, I'd imagine, discrimination in one form or another. As a white male, I hadn't experienced it until I came to Japan. So it's only since I've been in Japan that I've experienced discrimination. And yeah, I don't like it. It's not nice, is it? You really do feel, you often feel like a second-class citizen in Japan. It often happens, you know, I can't think of more examples at the moment, but there's many, you know, times where you just feel like a second-class citizen. I mean, there's also positive discrimination. I mean, there's jobs as English teachers, you know, in Japan where they want a native-speaking English person. Now, in that case, where, you know, someone that comes to Japan to teach English will experience positive discrimination, where they don't want a Japanese person for the job, they want a foreigner for the job. So, you know, there's positive discrimination as well, which obviously is quite pleasant, but it's the negative discrimination is pretty bad. And when it does happen, it feels terrible. You know, things that you can do quite easily in your country, try and do it here, and they'll say, no, you can't because you're a foreigner. And it's game over, end of discussion, you know. So it is frustrating. It is frustrating feeling like, you know, a Japanese person's allowed to do that, but you're not. You know, that company will quite happily do business with a Japanese person, you know, who's in exactly the same financial situation as you or whatever, and they won't, you know. Credit cards is a good example. You could have a credit card in your country with a $50,000 limit and, you know, lots of cash in the bank, and you know, you could be in wonderful shape financially. You know, you could have a big pile of cash here, you could be in wonderful shape financially. But, you know, if you're a foreigner, no, sorry, no credit card for you. That's most of the banks, not all of them, but that's most of the banks. As soon as they know that you're a foreigner, no, sorry, no credit card for you. So, yeah, it's tough, guys, it is. I mean, I can laugh about it now, but there's times where you just want to pull your hair out. You know, there really is, where you just feel terribly. Injustice is what it feels like, and I suppose that's the same as discrimination in any country. If you're discriminated against because of who you are, of course it's not nice, you know. So I've heard about discrimination from the police. I've never experienced that. All my dealings with the police, you know, have been my own doing, because I've been stopped for speeding a few times, as you've seen on my other videos, and I've never been hassled by the police. I've heard stories about this, about innocent people minding their own business getting hassled by the police because they're foreign. Know about that one. You know, I've you know, encountered police in big cities and in the country and everywhere, and they've always been wonderful to me. So I don't know about that one. I'm not sure I want to believe that one, but anyway, could be true. Anyway, guys, that's the story. So yeah, come to Japan for a short period of time, you probably won't notice it. Probably won't. I mean, I did actually. The first time I came to Japan, I walked into a ryokan, into an old-style Japanese hotel, and the owner came to the door and went, "A foreigner?" Well, sorry. So yeah, that was my first week in Japan. I experienced that one. So you might experience it if you're only coming here for a week. You might experience it, but live here long term and you definitely will. So you've just got to accept it, unfortunately. If you don't like it, you can leave. But there's nothing you can do. There's no point in complaining. Complaining will make it worse. If you complain to Japanese people about the discrimination, it'll make them feel bad and they won't like you either. And that's the other difficult thing to take, is that you've got to accept that you're being discriminated against and don't complain about it. Because if you complain about it, it'll just make more problems. You just have to accept it, which is pretty hard for lots of people that are used to living in countries where you can complain long and hard. But you know, even doesn't matter who it is in your life here, you complain to any Japanese person about the discrimination or about any problem that you have here, you'll just get some more grief because of it. You're better off you just got to bite your tongue and wear it, basically. If you really do need to talk to someone about it, talk to another foreigner about it. Don't try and talk to a Japanese person about it, because it'll just make them feel bad and they won't react well to it, probably. You know, they won't get all upset or anything, but they won't like it, and yeah, it won't do your relationship with them any good. There's nothing they can do about it, basically. So anyway, guys, there it was. Sorry, it's ugly, but I have to address all the topics, and that was this one. So anyway, more videos, more positive videos coming soon.